Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I mentioned in my opening statement, there are several ways in which I believe that we could work together to find some bipartisan solutions to this crisis, and this amendment is one of those possibilities. Following the shooting in Parkland, Florida, as I previously mentioned, former Sheriff Congressman John Rutherford led a bipartisan group of members, including myself, in reauthorizing and expanding the Top Secure Our Schools grant program. Mr. Chairman, I think somebody is unmuted out there that should mute.
Gentleman will proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That program provides necessary funds to states and local school districts to strengthen security measures at schools across the country. The money can be used for metal detectors, for example. It can be used to adopt security plans. It can be used to train school officials. It can be used to help to identify students who have mental health issues and get those students the treatments that they need, among other things. And oftentimes, teachers can be trained both on how to identify those students who may ultimately become dangerous with or without a weapon, or also how these particular incidents ought to be handled. You know, how doors can be locked and kept locked, and a whole range of other ways to make our schools safer. One of the additional items the grants could be used for is hiring school resource officers to help protect our schools. In particular, I think that we should be looking to hire retired police officers. And following Parkland, I met with the head of our local FOP here in Cincinnati, and that was his suggestion, and that was the reason that I had initially offered this and why I've been pushing for this since that time. And we'd like to see that expanded, not just retired police officers, but also honorably discharged military personnel. And they could also serve as resource officers where needed. I know for certain that there are at least a handful of school districts in my district in the greater Cincinnati area that either cannot find any school resource officers or cannot find as many as they'd like to hire because of lack of available personnel that have the necessary training. Obviously, I won't name those districts or those schools and expose any potential security vulnerabilities, but I'm sure that if this problem exists in Cincinnati, it exists in other parts of the country as well. Fortunately, we have a fairly expansive group of highly trained security experts readily available, and that's our retired police officers and honorably discharged military personnel. Placing highly trained and professional individuals in our schools is one of the easiest and safest methods to bolster school security. And no one is better trained and better equipped to handle potential school shootings than those folks, the police officers and military personnel. My amendment expresses the sense of Congress that more states and local school districts should consider employing retired officers and military personnel where it's appropriate as school resource officers. Hiring retired police officers and retired military personnel to provide school security is a common sense step to better secure our schools, and it could be achieved almost immediately. Most importantly, doing so could go a long way towards protecting our students who are in school to learn, not to become victims. Mr. Chairman, our nation's schools have become soft targets for any would-be killer who has gotten access to a gun. We even advertise with a sign that the murderer-to-be will be the only person on the scene with a gun. It's almost like a welcome mat. We need to do a better job of protecting both students and teachers and other personnel at our schools, because they're all vulnerable from those frequently and unfortunately increasingly frequent threats. Adopting this common sense amendment would be a significant step, I believe, in the right direction. And it's something we could do right now. And I think this is something that really would make a difference, because hopefully we will be, if this passes and is part of the bill, members will read the bill. Members can reach out to school districts and schools in their own communities and make them aware that this money is available for them to harden the schools. That would actually accomplish something. I yield back.